Welcome back to the Vera House podcast. We've got a really good episode for you today. We're going to talk about some urban legends and maybe some old teeth.
Yeah, we had a good one. It was a fun one. Texas Beach Bridge is opening back up. We talked about the Watermelon Festival. Do we love it? Do we hate it? Somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still undecided. We talked about Richmond 311, how you can get the best out of your community. We talked about hidden train in the city. So that was a fun one. Yeah. So tune in, listen in. I think you're going to love it. I've never had pickled chicken feet or chicken feet in general.
If you've never had chicken feet, I would say try it because it's a really unique experience. I'm not going to say it's once in a lifetime, but if you've never had chicken feet, you got to try it.
I guess it is once in a lifetime if you don't do it again, right?
Yeah, man. You got to try it at least once. It's wild. There's a place I can recommend.
Interesting. What's the texture like?
I think it depends on where you get it. Where I got it was a dim sum place off a horse pen, not far from here. And I think it was supposed to be fried. So like fried chicken feet. And I see it on the menu. I'm like, I like fried chicken. Let's go. But I'd never had dim sum and no one was telling me how to do it. Ordered fried chicken feet. It was breaded, but the breading was mushy. And the chicken feet were like bone, like really bony, like not a lot of meat on it. It was gross. Like, to be honest, it was gross. It tasted okay, but it was like real weird. Just picture your hand in a deep fryer and then that's chicken feet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm sold. I do know that they sell them at the farmer's market. And honestly, I don't even know what dim sum is, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a dim sum place. It's called Full Key.
So what is that? What is dim sum?
I'm not sure because that's the only time that I went. I got chicken feet and I don't think that's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
But I think it's like small portions of a bunch of stuff and you get like rice balls and a side of rice and then you get small portions in these little containers and you just eat them at your table. And then the lady comes over with the cart and you're like, all right, I want more of that or more of this. And then you get, another container.
Interesting.
I think.
Yeah.
Like, don't quote me because obviously I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, we'll quote Google. Dim sum is a popular style of Cantonese Chinese cuisine featuring a wide variety of small bite-sized dishes, often served in steamer baskets or on small plates, traditionally enjoyed as a light meal or brunch alongside tea. Yeah, man. I don't know if you're going to catch me eating chicken feet with my morning coffee, but yeah, when it comes to food, I'll normally try most things. Within reason. I would give chicken feet a shot.
Like I said, if you haven't, you should definitely try it because when I went there, I like Asian food, like Chinese food, like Japanese food, like Korean food, and like Thai food. And I think dim sum is Chinese. Mm-hmm. And Full Key is like, I wouldn't say legendary, maybe it's infamous, but it's been around for a really long time. I can remember it being there when I was a kid, but I'd never went with my parents. And then we go there. I'm like, okay, I want to get the full experience. I'm going to get everything. And this is one of those authentic experiences or authentic restaurants that doesn't hold your hand. So you go in, and if you don't know what you're doing, you order what you think you're going to get or what you think you want, and they bring you whatever you ordered. No instructions, no explainers. And if you go with the wrong people, they're not going to tell you how to do it either. And like, just for context, you know what Peking duck is?
I don't know if I do.
Okay. It is roasted duck, but the entire duck is roasted and seasoned with Peking specific like dressings or sauces. And as you're leaving, as you enter, but then as you're leaving, there's just Peking duck just hanging out. Like dried, had already been cooked, just dried Peking duck.
Yep.
Right at the cash register. So when you're going to pay, you're just looking at Peking duck, just right there.
I see it. I'm looking at it on Google right now.
Yeah.
Well, I will say with the dim sum, I love the steamer basket. Like I'm a big fan of a steamer basket. I have one at home and I use it all the time because I just prefer not to use the microwave. Like as long as I'm not in a rush, I will do whatever I can to avoid the microwave. And a steamer basket is a great alternative. You can put almost anything in it. Just put it on top of your pot of boiling water. And I have an induction stove, so I can boil water really quickly. And it's like it's not just as fast as the microwave, but it's pretty quick. It's quick enough.
Yeah.
And it's in my opinion, much better way to like reheat your food and your dinner and stuff. So like I'm looking at dim sum on Google Images and like, it's a nice presentation. It looks appetizing.
Yeah. And it is appetizing. Like that's why I was interested in going. I wanted to try it out. And I think I'm due for a redemption. I have not gone back because of my one-off experience years ago.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to go and redeem it.
Yeah.
Give it a solid try, get the right food, go with the right people, go to the right restaurant, do the whole thing.
Nice. Well, maybe I'll be right there with you.
Yeah.
Give it a shot for the first time.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down.
I'm down, man. Okay, first of all, on the way here, dude, I saw someone running in pants. Okay. Dude, it is nowhere near chilly enough to be running in pants. First of all, what is running in pants? Who runs in pants? What is that?
Someone in a hurry or running from something.
No,
somebody, maybe.
This person was in full workout mode. They were exercising with pants on.
Yeah.
And just made me think like, look, we just had Labor Day. I understand fall is upon us. We have a tidal wave of pumpkin spice that's about to attack the city.
Tidal wave.
But it's not running in pants time.
I don't think to your point, is there a time for running in pants? Because, I'm thinking about when I picture somebody running in pants, I'm thinking two things. You're either running and you're wearing denim because you didn't plan on running and you suddenly have to run.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, I gotta go.
Missed the bus or something.
Sure. You're being chased. I don't know. Like you got Timberlands on because you're wearing denim and boots because that's a good look. And all of a sudden you got to hoof it. And then I'm picturing somebody wearing like track pants, like windbreaker pants, athletic pants.
Yeah.
But that's also not a good vibe either. It's like swishy pants and running. I don't see it.
Yeah. Or you got to go full like boxer vibe or like wrestling vibe where you've got, the hood string pulled tight, and you got, the triple socks on.
Yeah.
And you're like basically cutting weight outside with a sweatsuit on.
That's a sweatsuit. The cotton, I feel like it's okay. Not a lot of friction with the cotton. And, it's cold and it'll be cold in the winter and you don't want to stop training because it's cold outside. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Swishy pants. And I'm guessing that's what this guy was wearing.
Yeah, it was like Adidas, like the 3-lined kind of track pants, swishy pants.
Were
whatever.
they like spandex pants, like skin tight?
No, they weren't like compression pants. They're like not loose enough to call them baggy, but definitely too tight to be running in. Like the perfect level of uncomfortable to where you'd be like, why am I running in this?
Yeah.
And it was even to the point where as I'm driving by, I could see like they were almost like hiked up his calf, but to a point where it's like he didn't do that on purpose. I think they literally were just there from him run. I don't know. It was a wild sight, man. And it just made me contemplate. It's not chilly enough for that yet, man.
No.
It's, I'm actually quite surprised at the weather and how cool it is, how quickly, there's part of me where I'm like, there's no way summer is like actually over, right? There's no way.
Yeah.
But maybe it is. Maybe it is.
I don't want it to be over because I like the warm weather and I like the fall. Don't get me wrong. Fall is actually one of my more, as I'm like getting older and getting more into like the outfits that you can wear in different seasons. Definitely like a fall fit. Love a hoodie, long pants, a nice crew neck sweatshirt. Big fan. It's a little too soon because it feels like June was just like yesterday. And I selfishly don't want it to be too cold to do like outside stuff.
Yeah.
I've got a rooftop party planned in October. And last year it was warm in October because I remember Halloween was like, I was sweating out in my little costume. But like, if it's cool like this now, is it going to be too cold in October for an outside rooftop thing? And
I remember your October party. And I had a black leather jacket on. Like it was It was chilly.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the beginning of November. So we were like,
Oh, maybe you're right.
yeah, we were a little further down, which November, I feel like that's fine. It's totally fine. Yeah. Even still, that was a little like warm-ish.
It was definitely, it was beautiful out when the sun was, and then as soon as the sun goes down, it was chilly.
Yeah, it was chilly.
But it was like a beautiful night. There was tons of people there. That was a blast.
Yeah.
I'm excited to do that again.
Yeah. So hopefully we get like another like warm push towards middle to end of October. Would love that.
Yeah. So where do people find out about your shows? Like when you're putting on a show, like where do they go?
So I usually promote on Instagram. I put a flyer up. I tag the Graduate Hotel, which is where it's going to be. And I push out an invitation using like a Partyful app, push out the invitation to people that have been to the previous events. And I put the app's link in my bio on Instagram. I use Instagram mainly for advertisements because my profile there is just for DJing stuff. I don't like to put the advertisements on my personal profile. I don't like to mix the messaging, but yeah, Mass Effects at Mass Effects Music on Instagram. October, let me confirm the date. But mid-October will be a rooftop event at the Graduate Hotel. We're going to be dancing and hopefully it won't be too cold.
Yeah. No, I would imagine the weather will stay nice. But you'll see me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good. And I am thinking about, I saw this meme that said like, it was the Dune music in the background and it had like the Dune theme song and it showed like a town being taken over by the spice.
Yeah.
Right. And it said like pumpkin spice and September 1st. And I just, dude, I could not stop laughing. I was just dying laughing at that.
Yeah. We're both pretty frequent regulars over at Fuel Pump.
Yeah.
And I think I went in there earlier this week and was just talking to the barista and I was like, how's it going? How's your day? And she was like, it's good. But like seemed a little frantic because it was kind of busy. It was actually Monday. So it was Labor Day. And she was kind of frantic, kind of busy. She's like, yeah, busy day. People are off for the holiday. And we're about to come out with our like holiday or like seasonal drink menu, which has a ton of pumpkin spice on it. And she looked thrilled. Just so stoked for all the pumpkin spice.
Yeah, I think they were the only ones open on Monday as well. Because I think I popped by there for a minute as well. And all the other coffee shops were closed.
Yeah. That's why I love that spot, man. They're open all day, every day. And I mean, from all day, I mean, like, I think it's 8 or 9 in the morning until like 7 p.m. Every day.
Yeah, sometimes later. When I was in there, it may have been that Monday, I was in there and I overheard these people behind me talking about this buried train in Churchill that I guess like 200 years ago, there was like a railroad collapse or something. And, like it killed like hundreds of workers in this whole train. And it's still there, I guess. Like it's still somewhere buried underneath Churchill. You ever heard about this?
I think I have. I think if this is the same buried train, it is 18th Street near Broad. And it's going, the hill where the train used to run through is actually, so if 18th and Broad intersects where like the gas station is and everything, it's going up towards Churchill on 18th Street. And that next block, there's a big hill. And I actually think people still run up that hill. It's not the like famous Churchill stairs where you see people like running to like get fit. It's not that hill. It's a little before that. But if it's the same train, same hill, same location, there was a fire in a tunnel that used to run there. And the tunnel collapsed and a bunch of people died. And there is a legend of the Richmond Vampire. And I think if we're talking about the same train, that's where it started.
Whoa. Quick side note. Have you ever been to the Edgar Allan Poe Museum?
I've actually never been there.
Okay. It's very cool. Edgar Allan Poe is like a very interesting character. I'm not a big like paranormal superstitious guy, but I definitely saw a ghost there when I was like 22.
How do you know it was a ghost?
Dude, I'll explain. It was weird.
All right.
It was very strange. Either it was a very well done, elaborate prank, which I find hard to believe. But bro, it was like a floating ghost in the courtyard. And it was me and my buddy Jonathan. I was probably like 22 at the time, walking down on Main Street. And we were walking by and we just saw like a few people like standing out there, like looking like kind of freaked out. And we stopped by and we looked over and we're like, what's going on? And they're like, you see that ghost? And we're like, what? We're looking there and it's literally just like this floating like person, like a hologram looking person. And sure, maybe it could have been a hologram, but I don't know, dude. Like that type of technology wasn't exactly great at that time. And maybe it was a prank. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I'm a skeptic, but I'm a skeptic, but I'm also a believer in general.
For sure.
I'm inclined to believe it if there's enough proof.
Yeah.
But I'm also a skeptic because people like to tell stories and the stories have, plot holes and you're like, yeah, I know you want this to be true, but I'm pretty sure it's not.
I know. That's the worst thing about a lot of this stuff is like life is so fascinating. And like, if you look at life in 5D and you see all this weird stuff, it's like you want it to be true. Like you want to believe in it, but then you have to put on your skeptic hat and be like, oh, I don't know, man, that might be BS. Yeah. The train thing is interesting though. I've never heard about the vampire. I did just look it up though. And I think a moment ago I said like, a ton of people died. I guess that's not exactly true. The article from 1925, this is October 2nd, 1925, the Richmond Times-Dispatch, the headline was 2 men known to be dead, 2 injured, several others missing. So maybe it was, a handful fatalities, but over 200 laborers make their way to safety after the crash comes. So yeah, I didn't realize it was a tunnel. But it says, 100 years ago, the Churchill Tunnel collapsed onto hundreds of workers. The train and possibly the remains of unrecovered workers are still buried under the cave-in.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the 20th century, hundreds of workers spent months expanding an existing tunnel in Richmond's Churchill so more trains could bring supplies to the growing city. The old tunnel had collapsed several times since its construction in the 1870s before the project was abandoned. And tragically, it collapsed again on October 2nd, 1925 during its revival. Pretty nuts, man. The pictures are wild.
Yeah. I actually had to look into that. Not had to, but I think I did look into it because I was just generally curious about some of the like urban legends or stories that you hear about Richmond, because there are a lot. This is a really old city and it's gone through dozens of like monumental events, from wars to constructions to fires to floods. There's a ton of stuff that happened here. So stories like that are really interesting, especially when, it's like the telephone game is like who said what to who. And then you're like, wait, the train was made out of diamonds? You're like, nah, actually, no. Let me go back and find the historical facts and get the truth about it. But there was a legend that I would hear coming up in Richmond about the Richmond Vampire. And again, I love sci-fi and I have a wild imagination. So I'm always inclined to initially believe like, okay, what parts of the story are actually true? And the story was told numerous times over the years, and I'd heard different versions of it over the years. And the first few versions were about the train accident and about a scary, eerily veiled person being seen running away from the tunnel. And they described the person to have like similarities or physical features not different than a vampire. Missing teeth in the front, 2 jagged teeth pointing down, disheveled and ripped clothing, brownish, burnt or white or pale skin. And then this person just like leapt away. Like I imagine this person like peering out from the tunnel and then like scuttling away into the woods. But that was the story that I kept hearing, and it was the same for multiple people, but with some variation. And then I found out more about the train accident and the tunnel collapsing, and then the fire. I think there was a fire in there as well. What I put together was that the Richmond Vampire urban legend is an actual account, not eyewitness account of people seeing one of the survivors who was never found leaving the tunnel after the train collapsed. And the physical features they described are pretty on par with somebody who would have been trapped in a tunnel or in a train when the tunnel collapsed on it. Maybe broken bones, disheveled look, missing teeth, I think there's like talking about like skin being missing in parts of his body. But I'm pretty sure that person was never found. So there's no proof of that actual eyewitness account. It's just a urban legend now.
Well, it fits into what this story says because there are, so to give credit to many of the people it seems like have put effort into this. So this guy, Brian Bullock, and a director of a documentary about this named Ryan Pace. Seems like they've connected, they've had conversations about this, but a lot of it is because there are, still people and stories that have not been uncovered because, the train has never been unearthed. They've never sounds like they've never really excavated the area. So there's still, stories waiting to be unfolded and people waiting to be identified and stuff.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, that kind of fits into that narrative. It would be cool to maybe have them on and do a deep dive into this story. It'd be super interesting.
That would be super cool to get some confirmation on some of the urban legends and like the tales that have been told over the years and maybe get some information on, what the next, if there are any next steps or plans for that site to be excavated or investigated.
Well, it says that plans to recover the train have been proposed, but they have not come to fruition, nor have the identities of the 5 black laborers been uncovered, leaving their stories untold. So I guess there are, 5, and there could be more, but 5 like confirmed people that were working on the tunnel or the railroad that, definitely got caught in that collapse. And there was, no effort to unearth them and give them a proper burial funeral. I'm assuming that's what it seems like with this story. And there's some other stuff on here too that's like honestly pretty heartbreaking, but it's crazy that like 100 years can go by and stuff like that just gets forgotten.
Yeah. It's not dissimilar to a lot of things that I think happened over the years and over time in Richmond and other cities like ours that are old and have lots of history, that date back to, the slave trade, to the founding of the country. There's a lot of stories like that where, people were caught in, construction accidents or in fires or in floods, and bodies were never recovered, or they were recovered but never identified. And that actually leads me into something that I've recently found that was super interesting in the vein of uncovering and rediscovering something but much, much older. So I'm going to pull up this article here. There was a VCU professor who found a fossilized set of human teeth in Ethiopia. And this set of human teeth has been dated and analyzed and confirms the existence of a separate type of human, what was that word that we were talking about? Australopithecus that existed at the same time as Homo genus.
Yeah.
So when we think about our evolution as a species, we look at the marching man chart where it's, monkeys, apes, chimps, Neanderthal, early Homo genus, and then a more evolved upright Homo genus, and then modern humans. This archaeological find somewhat puts a different timestamp or space in between parts of that evolution where there was a different type of human that existed at the same time as the Homo genus that we know existed in those time periods. And there's an article on news.vcu.edu. So working in Ethiopia, fossil finder Amy Rector helps add another branch to the busy tree that reflects our evolution. It took 2 years to determine that the teeth represent a new species of Australopithecus.
Yep.
And the interviewer is asking, how does that change our understanding of human evolution? Amy says, this means that our family tree is a lot busier than we previously thought. We already know that there were multiple species of Australopithecus, sometimes alive at the same time, and now we have added another species that is close in time and space to the earliest member of our own genus, Homo, which is pretty cool.
It's insanely cool, especially the fact that it's tied to VCU. Ethiopia is an interesting place. Like that's where the Book of Enoch was discovered. And Book of Enoch is basically, a segment of the Bible that was, excluded, right? If you go back to basically ancient Roman times, you have people of power that are choosing what is included in ancient text and what isn't. And they excluded the Book of Enoch because it doesn't fit the mainstream narrative. And I think like when it comes, here's what I think is if we zoom out, like, and we look at discoveries like this, I actually think there's a ton of evidence and discoveries that point to that being true, right? That the general timeline that has been accepted by academia about human evolution and our history is significantly wrong. Even if you go up to like, not even 200 years ago, the mainstream belief was that humans were 5,000 years old. We know for a fact that that's not even anywhere near correct. And, I think it's this weird paradox of we all have egos. And when people have spent their entire lives studying something and they've found information for, something to be true. And let's say that you've built your career, your education, maybe even maybe you've written a book on a topic. And then someone finds a discovery that shows like, oh, turns out, sorry, you were wrong. It's really hard to accept that. Yeah. And I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine being in that position to where, let's say you study a very specific thing, like whether it's Egyptology or whether it's any of these things. And then somebody, comes along and does amazing work and then discovers something that proves your whole thesis wrong. Yeah. It's amazing for humanity and for society, right? Because as humans, we're all naturally invested in understanding our origins and our history and what that looks like. But dude, there's so many things that are like insanely fascinating. And I could go off on a whole thing here, but there's a wheel that was found that could be anywhere from 15 million to 300 million years old. The earth has been around a long time. Yeah. And if we think about like, dude, if we left New York City alone for just 100 years, it would be almost unrecognizable.
It's true.
You think about if you don't even just do your lawn care for like a year, like think about that. Like, no shade on my neighbor, but like, dude, they don't take care of their house. It's like, dude, the earth will consume your home. Yeah. It will destroy your roof. It will eat through everything. It will eat through stone. It will eat through everything. Yeah. So who knows like what's left from our ancient past and our ancient history, and it's not for me to say, but I think it's amazing when people like dig and they find these things and then they come to light. Even cooler that it happens like in our hometown from somebody who works at VCU. It's awesome. It
is pretty cool. And like, the things that you would find in a dig, teeth, a set of teeth. I'm fascinated by stuff like this, and I know you are as well. Just the procedure, like in the process of, you find a set of teeth and then you look at the teeth, you're like, oh, these look like, teeth I'd find in someone's mouth today. They look almost identical. There's a picture of them on the header of the article. And she goes on to say that they found the teeth in 2018. So they've been working on this for a very, very long time. And it's only now that they have actual proof and actual evidence to back up their claims of where these teeth were originated from and the type of human, the genus of human that they represent and where that puts the timeline and these people and where they existed in that time is fascinating. And like, to your point, if they go on and they disprove somebody else's finding or they reshape somebody else's finding, then yeah, sure. His thesis or their thesis is probably null and void or, has a bunch of holes in it now, but that's the whole point. You want people to prove you wrong because that means we're making progress.
It does. And I think like progress is the name of the game, but it's unfortunate. There's a lot of people in the world of academia that work against progress because of what could be discovered and all of the information that could be proven wrong. But I mean, different types of humans have been discovered many, many times throughout the past, century minimum. But even beyond, like there's this whole thing going on right now with the Nazca mummies in Peru. And these are very, very, very strange, interesting things. And like, there's a lot of people trying to stop people from unearthing what could be true about those. And even beyond that, in a little bit more of the world of normalcy, we very much discovered humans that are almost like hobbit-like humans, like very short. We've also discovered very tall, and it's there's all kinds of different stuff that the truth is we don't know. We have no clue. And when you look into history and the way things that have been done, there's so much that we're taught in primary school and grade school that is just unequivocally false. It's just not true. And it's a shame. It's a shame. And I think it's amazing, like when people discover something, but it gets to see the light of day, which
100%.
is really, really cool.
100%.
And teeth in general are super interesting. Like you think about the history of teeth, and like today we have all this modern science and health where, we have root canals and veneers and all these other things. And, we're convinced that like our teeth are not going to survive if we don't brush our teeth 7 times a day and like do all this stuff. It's like, that's not true. It's like, we did just fine for tens of thousands of years without toothpaste.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
So,
the breath wasn't probably so fresh and, crooked teeth, gaps, brown teeth, but also true. They didn't have toothpaste in Neanderthal times.
Right.
When Australopithecus was running around with these busted ass teeth, he didn't have toothpaste.
Yeah. And dude, there are some interesting arguments against that too, though, because like our diets were very different. Like today, our diets are very soft. Like we're eating, yogurt and mashed potatoes and whatever. Thousands of years ago, we were eating much more of a raw diet, right? Like our potatoes, like were harder. You're eating a lot of proteins and raw meats and stuff. And so like your jaw was much more active and you're eating much more dense food, which contributes to the development of the jaw as a child. And, I'm not a dental expert by any means, but I do find it really interesting. And I find teeth really fascinating. So,
yeah, I know we can go on a tangent on that, but like that, there's a whole like market now around reshaping the shape of your face, starting with your jaw. And it's everything from cosmetic, meaning, you get these there's really hard, extra hard, dense chewing gum now that's meant to exercise and work out your jaw. There are, I think it's called Blue Chew, maybe. And then there's like a thing you wear around your neck that just is like a chew, basically like a chew toy. Yeah. But you put it in your mouth and you work out your jaw just like this. And the claim is it will help the symmetry and the shape of your face by improving the muscles, the mandible muscles on the back of your jaw right here. But what they also noticed is it improves your sinus pressure, it improves breathing, it improves your ability to swallow and digest food, it improves your posture. It's wild. So it's funny, all the pictures of like Australopithecus, for example, or like early Neanderthals are like meat-headed, giant-shouldered, thick neck, just burly looking men and women. And you're right, it's because they didn't have any of the aids that we have for food, for home, for gathering food and supplies. They had to, for all intents and purposes, manhandle it or like forage with their hands and knees and feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have all the modern day tools for cooking, and all of that results in softer food. When you cook meat, it becomes more tender and softer. And same thing goes for every vegetable, and all these things. And yeah, it didn't always used to be like that. Now we've had fire forever, but yeah, our diets are unrecognizable compared to, again, even just 100 years ago, but especially thousands of years ago.
What's the diet? I think we have a friend that's on this diet that's like mainly and mostly red meat.
Yeah, like a carnivore diet.
Yeah. Isn't there a caveman diet where you just eat everything like a caveman would eat?
Probably. That's probably what the Liver King diet, I guess, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Which all that turned out to be a sham anyway. A lot of it was BS. But specifically when it comes to the development of the jaw and the teeth, a lot of it actually has to do with your airway. It has a lot to do with how you breathe. It sounds funny because we call people like mouth breathers. Yeah. But there's a reason for that term. There's a reason that term exists, and it's definitely an issue. And I think the biggest issue is that people can't control it while they're sleeping, which is why we have this big boom of like mouth tape and the nose strips and stuff is
Yeah.
all about your airway, because there's definitely, it's backed by science that does cause that, right? You basically have this like collapsed jaw from breathing through your mouth. And then it makes you wonder, well, okay, well, what is the cause of that? And, I don't have enough education on that topic to really know, but I would imagine that a lot of it does have to do with posture and being seated all day and stuff like that,
There's a picture, and I'll try and find it. There's a picture of what some scientists estimate that the average person will look like from a posture standpoint in like 40 years, 50 years, and they're shaped like an S or like a Q, like a lowercase or like an uppercase Q, whatever. It's shaped like an S, where their neck and forehead, their neck and head are like super perched out, like stuck out like this. The jaw is almost fully gone, like the chin is almost fully gone. Their neck is curved from the back. There's a hump in the back, and their chest cavities caved in, and their bellies protrude, and their legs are bent backwards or hyperextended. They look like aliens.
Yeah.
And now it makes me think about when I was going to go on a tangent about aliens, but we'll save that for another episode.
And I mean, if I had to guess what you're going to say, it's worth a comment, right? Which is, if you were a super advanced civilization, which we're slowly becoming, well, pretty interesting that there's indicators that that's what we would look like. Just saying.
Yeah.
Pretty weird.
Aliens aren't aliens. They're us from the future.
Yeah.
Because relativity. Look it up.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, we can
Actually,
go on it.
Don't look it up. Just watch Interstellar. It explains the entire thing.
Yeah. And if you do look it up, don't use Google. use a better browser.
Yeah. Speaking of looking things up, you've got an upvote local 311 mention on our notes.
Yeah. So, this comes from my excitement about Richmond's development. And we've talked about a lot of things on this show, like the development of the amphitheater and Browns Island and Scott's Addition and just all these things blowing up. The new bridge on Boulevard and the idea for the roundabout and the bike lanes. And I love all of it. It's really, really exciting. But then I can't help but notice at the same time, I walk around my neighborhood and it's like, the vegetation hasn't been managed in, at all this year. And sure, you could say, oh, well, the city's busy. It's like, okay, cool. But I think for me personally, I'm somebody who spends a lot of the time like walking through our green spaces in the parks and Bird Park and around Shields Lake and Swan Lake and Fountain Lake and on all these areas. And if I rewind back to last summer, they were cutting the grass like what seemed like 3 times a week, like to the point it was ridiculous. And they were cutting it so low that if you were ever walking through the park while they were cutting the grass, it was like a sandstorm, because they weren't even cutting the grass. They were like cutting the dirt. Like they were cutting it so low that it was spinning up these huge dirt clouds and dust clouds. And people were even complaining about it because they're like, dude, this is ridiculous. Not only because it makes the park unenjoyable when they're cutting the grass so frequently, but you're killing the grass. And then all that dirt and dust goes up into the air and then lands in the pond and then goes all to the pond's, waterways that, and then you can actually see it like all built up, like all the grass and the dirt and the pollen and the mud from them cutting the grass so frequently. So now they've done an about face, and now they're like, all right, well, now we're just not cutting the grass at all.
Too many complaints.
Yes. And to clarify, like there's definitely an initiative in the parks where they're letting dedicated areas grow like as a meadow. And personally, I actually love it. I think it's beautiful. I think it solves a lot of problems. I think it helps the wildlife. And I'm sure some people don't like how it looks. I personally do like how it looks. And they've done a great job of like putting down netting to catch all the wild seeds and all that stuff to let the meadow grow and then increase the pollinators, which helps the wildlife and the ducks and all that great stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. But then they have these places where clearly you shouldn't be doing that, such as the sidewalk. And it's at this point where you're walking and literally the sidewalk's engulfed in grass and all this other stuff. And, I get it. Like I totally sound like a first world complainer right now. which is what's happening, right? Like we're in but the thing is, you know, like as a taxpayer that pays an absorbent amount of taxes, like, you know, for what reason? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, dude, cut the grass. Like what is happening? You know, it's like, okay, yeah, we're putting in these cool bridges and all this other stuff. It's like, take care of what you got, man, you know? And I don't know. It's just silly because you would think if there was anything that would be taken care of, it would be the public parks. And maybe they got some plan that I'm unaware of, but it just looks terrible. Now, many like Richmond residents are actually not aware of the Richmond 311 app.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it until like a year ago.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's actually pretty impressive. Now, they used to not have an app, and it was just like this online mobile process, or you had to literally go to City Hall, you know, where like mail in a complaint. And since since COVID or whatever, you know, they made everything much more attainable or accessible through the internet. And now they have an app, and it's literally just RVA 311. I highly recommend, if you live in Richmond, please download it. And you don't have to be a homeowner, right? If you live here, you want to see the place taken care of. And it's so easy when you have something in your neighborhood or your surrounding area that the city is responsible for, that they should take care of, such as overgrowth. Now, I will make a distinction, you know, in certain areas, it is the residents' responsibility to take care of the sidewalk in front of your home, right? So if you have an issue there and the grass is over it, if it's by a residential home, technically the homeowner is supposed to take care of that. But in your local parks and stuff, and and the boulevard walkway, for example, it's like the city should take care of that. So when you have crazy stuff going on, whether it's weeds or overgrowth or like all this stuff, it's like, yeah, it's your city's responsibility to take care of those things, and we pay for that. Like these are services that the citizens have paid for. Therefore, the city it's a business. Yep. It's a business, and it's here to make money, and they need to do the services that we paid for. It really is as simple as that.
Yep.
So the reason I like the app is because it is actually pretty easy. Just if you're on a wall, it takes 60 seconds to be like, oh, there's a huge pothole here, or there's this thing going on. And you can just click and just put a pin on the map and just submit a thing and just be like, yo, there's a huge pothole here that needs to be fixed. Take a picture of it, snap it, submit it, and you're done. And it only takes a minute. More importantly, though, an even easier thing that you could do is just download the app, and then you can look at the map and you can see all of the existing tickets that have been submitted. So even if there's nothing off the top of your head that's been bothering you, right? You can easily help out your community by opening the app and seeing what everyone else has kind of pinned around your neighborhood, and just upvote the ones that matter to you.
Gotcha.
So in my neighborhood, there was like a huge like hornet's nest on a public walkway, and people were getting stung and stuff. And what made me think about this was that we got a newsletter in my neighborhood that said, hey, please go upvote this in the app so that the city notices it. So yeah, it's just a quick note. I think it's important. It's an easy way to improve your surroundings. And at a time where we do have like all these amazing things going on, it's also not that hard to look at the simple things around you and say, oh, I do care about this, and let me upvote that, or let me just, raise my hand and say, hey, this matters to me in my community or this local park or in my neighborhood. So I use it pretty frequently, and you'd be surprised. Like the city, they don't do a bad job. Like I'm not throwing shade at all. I think, at least from what I've seen, like the city does a pretty decent job of taking care of most things. And there's been times where I'm like, I need a new trash can, and I actually do get it pretty quickly. I know a lot of people have an issue with this, but where they've been waiting for months for a new trash can. But maybe I got lucky. I got my trash can replaced. There's been times where in the alleyway, the gravel needs to be redone. They've done a pretty good job of doing that. Or there's things that the city needs to come and look at, and they do. And I get notified that the ticket's been looked at, or the stage or the status has been updated, and they've come and worked on things. So yeah, it's just a good reminder to anybody who's listening. Just take 2 minutes, download the RVA 311 app, look at what's going on in your neighborhood, upvote the things you care about, and then keep it in the back of your mind when you do come across something that needs attention from the city. Full stop.
RVA 311. If you don't have it, get it, upvote it, take a look at it. I've looked at it, and when you told me about that, I was genuinely surprised that there was an app and that it worked.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it is working, and it is, they're relatively responsive. And I think that's just from having probably experiences like lots of people in the city that are not stoked on the city's response to taking care of problems like the trash can issue. Filling potholes definitely is one of them. So I would assume that it's probably split between people that are like stoked that there is a place to go that makes it easier than calling and waiting on hold, and to know that there's like a better return on them submitting a request or submitting like an issue. And then there's people that are like, I don't trust it. I don't really believe that they're going to be as good as you say they are. But at least there is a somewhat of a shortcut that circumvents the long hold time, the potentially having to talk to multiple people to tell them what the deal is, what's going on, and why you're still calling them to fix an issue that should have been fixed a long time ago. The other alternative is what I've seen people do is just stick a cone in a pothole, or, there was a dude, an artist, I don't know if you call him an artist, but I think there was a guy in the UK that was just painting like sexually explicit symbols on potholes, like graphic, so that you could see them when you're driving, and then you'd see them when you're walking down the street. And then the city came and like cleaned them up immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, good way to make something a priority, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It definitely got their attention.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think a lot of it probably has to do with the district or precinct or whatever that you're in too, because of course the city has a budget allocated for each different part of the city. And I'm sure that impacts how many resources are then sent out to that area to fix certain things. So,
yeah,
use it at your own discretion. Who knows what'll happen? But I think it's a good thing to bring awareness to, especially as summer wraps up. And like, I know that the greenery and the foliage and stuff in my neighborhood is a big issue because like we're close to the river, and it's just like stuff grows so quickly. And like in 1 year, it can get so out of hand. And once it's out of hand, it's hard to like fight it back, Yeah. And it's, again, complaining about simple things, but I think it applies to many other things too, the actual infrastructure of the city and stuff. So, even like things like street lamps being out and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool that there's something of some modern representative or representation of the city infrastructure, taking things from a modern perspective or trying to approach them from a modern perspective, like an app. We all know the government websites are garbage. I don't know, maybe they're all in cahoots, but I've been to different government websites in different cities and they're all trash. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, man, anybody that thinks that the government is here to make your life easier.
We all know that's a straight up
to break
lie.
it to you. That's not what's happening.
That's not the case.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that they don't deserve their flowers when it's due, and I love living here. I do think it's a great place. I think there's plenty of good stuff going on. The Watermelon Festival, however, I know the city doesn't put on the water. At least I don't think so. I think I think Kroger puts it on.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I have no idea who puts it on.
I think they do. Like it makes me to go full circle back to like the train collapse thing. You think about like all this, what's the word? All of this lore when it comes to the city of Richmond. And the Watermelon Festival has been going on forever, right?
Long time.
And I used to go like in my early 20s, you just go get drunk and go walk around the Watermelon Festival, right? Ride your skateboard through there or something. And dude, there's a ton of people that go to the Watermelon Festival. It's in Carytown, which I think Carytown has developed really nicely over the past several years. And I want to raise my hand and say the Watermelon Festival could be way cooler.
Oh, yeah.
Like way cooler.
I don't think it's changed. Well, it's definitely changed, but it definitely hasn't gotten better.
Yeah.
It's the same, which is worse.
Yeah. It's, and I know there's a bunch of effort that goes into it. I know lots of businesses make money from it, but I think that could all be like tenfold if there was like a real concept behind it.
Yeah.
It feels like to me, it's like, hey, come get your watermelon, which by the way, there's no actual watermelons for sale at the Watermelon Festival.
It's like watermelon slushies.
Yeah.
And like watermelon drinks at the restaurants.
Yeah. But if you thought you were going to the Watermelon Festival to take home a watermelon, I got bad news for
No.
you.
I think you can get it cubed in a styrofoam cup
Yes.
for $75.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of annoying, you know, and again, that's like, you know, sort of my stomping ground in my neighborhood over there. And I don't know, I just feel like there could be way cooler stuff going on, you know, like imagine they have a competition for the biggest watermelon, right? Like that would be cool. It's called the Watermelon Festival, but it's not really watermelon themed at all.
Yeah.
You know, like I want a watermelon parade, man. Like give me a watermelon float. Like get me a big 300-foot watermelon floating through Carytown. That's what I'm talking about, dude.
Yeah, that's a good point. I went to the Watermelon Festival. I wasn't planning on it. But I ended up going just because it was the end of the day on a Sunday and I didn't have anything else going on. And I went by myself just kind of to stroll through and see it. And yeah, you walk through, I started at the beginning of Carytown, so right where the sign is, where the sign that says Carytown, and you walk through and the street's blocked off and, you know, everyone loves a, you know, big block party. So a bunch of people bopping around, stalls and vendors in the middle and, you know, a bunch of food trucks, some music, like bands and musical artists were on the side streets. So those streets were blocked off and they all had like stages. And then on the other side would be like where you would get the watermelon, which was like, it was strange because there's people lined up to get like, you know, like I mentioned, like, you know, the styrofoam bowls that you'd get at like a hotel at like the continental breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you get when you get watermelon. Or you can go and get like kebab, fries, sauce, like sausage, or go into any of the restaurants and get food. And it was cool. I like the events and I like festivals and things like that because, you know, bring people out. It's something to do during the day. It's in like a cool community activity. Could definitely be better. And it reminds me of so many other things that we talk about and, you know, talk about on the podcast, but talked about off the podcast that are just there. It's there, but it's just so close to being awesome. It's just shy. And that like 20% is so blaringly obvious because you've seen other examples of things like that are really cool. And you're like, but you're just so close. Why didn't you finish it? And I've since called it the 80% problem. We get things, we get really good ideas, we get really good festivals, we get really good musicians, we get really good artists, we get really good restaurants. And with the exception of a handful of festivals, restaurants, events, and artists, there's a ton of stuff that happens. The intentions are there, the people are good-willed, they're talented, they're creative, the support is there, the community is behind it, but it's not quite awesome. It could be so much cooler, but it's not.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And, you know, with the Watermelon Festival, it feels like a bit of a money grab, you know, and what I mean by that is I think it's great for the businesses surrounding it, right? But then in the center, you just have like this weird county fair thing going on where like none of it has anything to do with watermelons. It's like these weird Temu tchotchke tents selling stuff that they, you know, basically drop shipped, like just some cheap junk. Now, don't get me wrong, not all of them are like that. There are some nice artisan tents where people actually make things and sell things, but it's like, I don't know, you walk through there, it's like, wait, what are we doing? What is happening? What is this? Where it's like a lot of the other stuff that's pretty amazing, such as like Arts in the Park. Like you go there and you're like, oh, I know why I'm here, right? Like this is really cool. I know why everybody's here. There's like a common thread through the whole thing of like, oh, this is cool, right? But we have the Watermelon Festival and it's like, okay, well, I didn't come here for the watermelon because there isn't any. So what am I doing? What am I here for? What's going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
And you look around and everyone else is kind of wondering the same thing. And it's like, what's good? What's happening? What is this? And again, if I was standing there and I saw a big watermelon float over my head and then a big watermelon mascot come up and say, Happy Watermelon Day, we'd at least be a step closer, you know? Yeah. And what I think they don't do that because it costs money to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, man. It's like, where's the watermelon hot sauce and stuff? You know, like what's happening? And
double down on the watermelon.
Yeah.
Go the extra 20%. You have hundreds of people that walk to the festival, that drive in from the counties.
Thousands, tens of thousands of people. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's crazy. They drive in from out of town, from the counties, from maybe even further away to come, to spend money, to walk around, to hang out, to watch music, to listen to music. And all you give them is a styrofoam cup with watermelon in it and like a watermelon martini.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. If that, I didn't see, shout out to Fuel Pump because they cleaned up that day because they did all these like watermelon,
watermelon margaritas.
They crushed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but then what ends up happening is exactly like you said, you got all these people that live in the surrounding suburbs and they leave thinking that their only opinion is there's nowhere to park. Like they have no other opinion. It's not like, wow, that was amazing. Can't wait to go back to Carytown. They're probably like, oh, I got a funnel cake and I got rear-ended. Like it's like that. I went, we need a shirt that says I went to the Carytown Watermelon Festival and all I got was a funnel cake and a fender bender.
Yeah. That is so good. But yeah, I mean, you think about like a county fair, because that's kind of what it reminds me of. It's like,
it is.
If you go to a county fair, you're wondering like, why did I go to a county fair? For like laughs and a good time and some popcorn, a funnel cake if they got it, some rides and like
and to risk your life on a Ferris wheel.
Yeah, a couple pictures. Maybe I'll hit the bazooka cannon gun thing and get a stuffed frog. Why did I go to the watermelon festival? Because I didn't have anything else to do.
Exactly. And like, yeah, to put a bow on it, it would be cool if that wasn't the case.
Right. It would be cool. Watermelon festival, if you're listening, watermelon mascot, watermelon hot sauce, and a giant watermelon that floats over the fest. And I think we'd be good.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah. And a watermelon competition for the farmers.
Yes. Biggest watermelon.
You got to have, like, dude, how do they not have that?
You know what?
Insane.
I'm not like, do you know the fitness camp or like, is it a gym? I think it's a gym. Tequila and deadlifts. Yeah. So every year, I think during the Watermelon Festival, they actually host a watermelon thigh smashing competition. Wow. Why wouldn't you just do that at the Watermelon Festival?
Exactly.
Like the festival should host like who can smash the most watermelons, Gallagher style. Like get the giant hammer out there, one for the kids. That would be so fun.
Yeah. And this is just a hunch. I don't know. But I would imagine that it's a money thing, right? Yeah. Like imagine a brand wants to do that. They have a great idea for a spectacle at the Watermelon Festival and somebody, big sponsor, we're not going to name names, probably comes in and says, oh, well, if you want a booth, it's $600 or it's $1,200. And then, yeah, a brand like that's going to be like, oh, yeah, we're not doing that. Like, we're trying to contribute, and sure, we might make some money and get some memberships and get some signups, right? But it's like, yeah, we're trying to make the Watermelon Festival cool. But then they maybe don't. And again, I'm just assuming, but maybe they don't want that. And so then what happens is all you get is your typical, brands or companies or vendors where basically that's their whole business model is annually all year long. They just take their food truck or their French fry truck or whatever, and they just go to all the different things. They hit the county fair, then they do the Watermelon Festival, then they do the farmers market, then they do the big market at Bryant Park and whatever, right? And that's just what they do.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with watermelons,
Yeah.
So I don't know. Or just drop the watermelon thing and just make it the Carytown Festival. That'd be pretty sweet.
And then you at least know why you're going there.
Yeah.
Because it would be the same thing. Music, kebabs, because you got to have the big, giant dude tent with like fresh kebabs on either side. There's always two of them.
Yeah.
You would have like local artisans. Like my friend was out there with her leather goods shop. Shout out House of Jung. She makes leather goods, wallets, bags, belts and stuff like that. And then you've got the local restaurants that are all there, the restaurants and shops that are all open. Mongrel's probably got like, a sale going on some really cool things. Bygones is doing a discount on like vintage hats. And then New York Deli has got, a Carytown themed sandwich for the day. That would be great.
Yeah. 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 And I think I would imagine that a lot of those like staples are either, they're just over it or it's a headache or, they don't see the benefit in doing that maybe, who knows? It's hard to say, but I guess speaking of Richmond staples, did you see that Texas Beach, which we brought up the other day on this show, they finally have plans to rebuild the bridge and open it back up to the public.
I think I heard something about it. And I didn't know that the path to Texas Beach was like broken or down or whatever.
Yeah, it's been like that for a long time. So basically, this probably happened, might have even been pre-COVID, man. It's been closed for a long time. They say 3 years, but I think it was longer than that, because what they did initially was like, oh, the bridge is kind of rusted out. It's kind of sketchy. So they just like put a sign that said like, heads up, or whatever. And, nobody cared and everybody just walked across it. Then eventually they put like a steel plate that they like bolted on the far side of the bridge, because the issue was actually the stairs. It wasn't really the bridge itself. It was, you got to cross the bridge and then the stairs down the other side was like very sketchy. But of course, it's Richmond. People are like, whatever, dude, I don't care. And somebody was able to like bend it up and then get under it. And then it stayed that way for probably like a year. And so, because probably the city didn't know that ever happened, right? They bolted it up and thought, oh, okay, we're good to go. And then, of course, somebody was able to open it, and then everything was good. And then who knows, maybe somebody got hurt or something, and then the city finds out, and then they go, and then they blocked it off again. So then they put a big plate on the front of the bridge, and they bolted off the front of the bridge so that you couldn't even get across it to get over to the stairs. And then same thing happened. Eventually people figured out how to get around it, and then everything was fine. So then they put plates on both sides, and then put a fence along the whole bridge so that you couldn't get around it, and then put a big bulldozer in front of it, and put the bucket up against the plate so that nobody could bend it out of the way. Because it's like, if you're going to bend this plate, you'd have to get the bulldozer out of the way, and you're not going to get this thing out of the way. So then that's how it sat for a very, very long time up until now. And I don't know all the details, but I guess there was maybe some sort of announcement made where finally they're doing something about it. And here it says repairs underway for Texas Beach Bridge after 3-year closure. And again, I think it was probably longer than that. But it's a Richmond.com article, so I can't read it. So all I can read is the headline, and all we know is that something's being done, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And I'll be honest, like, I've definitely been to Texas Beach, but I've always gone the way of going down Texas Avenue and like getting to the dead end, parking your car, and then walking down the trail path. I'm having a hard time picturing the bridge. Is this from the other side of the river?
No, not even. So it sounds like the spot you're talking about is where the bridge is. So when you get to the end of the street, there's like the little parking lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go in that parking lot, you can walk down, and there's multiple ways to go. So you can go like down the wooden stairs, which actually takes you to a path to where you could get to Texas Beach that way. So that might be the way you were going. It also goes left and hooks up into North Bank Trail, which takes you to Browns Island.
Yeah.
But the easiest or fastest way to go is actually just walking straight down that path where, you park in the parking lot or park on the street. You walk there. It's got the sign and the bike rack and everything, and you walk through. And then you take the top path, and there's a bridge. And it goes across the waterway, so that you can just go down the stairs and be on the other side of that little canal, which is the same canal that comes from Pump House. So like when you're at Pump House, how you have the little waterfalls and the gateways and the canal that you go over first, and then you can get to the actual river there. So there's of course there's actually a couple little canals there. And many, many years ago, George Washington built like a commercial railroad, like one of the first commercial railways for transporting coal and stuff. And it actually went along those canals. And then, of course, in the late 1700s, early 1800s, Richmonders would literally go by canal boat, and they would use them as transportation. So if you were like a rich, upper class Richmonder, you'd hop in your canal boat with your wife, and you hop in your little canoe, and you just float on down to the pump house. And they had a big open ballroom on top of it. You can still see it today. And they'd have dance parties and stuff in there, and like recitals, and you just go in there and have a grand old time. But anyway, there's that little canal, and that's what the bridge goes over at Texas Beach, or the Texas Beach Bridge. And what people did in the meantime was there's kind of some makeshift bridges that people have put together in the meantime to where you go down the path instead of up, and then you can just kind of walk over them, they're a little difficult to get over, like especially if you have like a dog or a bike or something.
Yeah.
But it works. But there's a few different ways to get there.
So if I want to go, I'm guessing I'm going to have to wait until whenever they decide to fix the bridge. Wonder if our guy is still there.
I was going to say, I mean, he's probably really enjoyed the past 3 or 4 years, right?
I don't know.
Texas Beach Naked Man. He had the whole place to himself, I guess.
Well, I mean, is that the appeal? Or is it just being out in nature at Texas Beach and being naked? Or was there some like peeping Tom voyeuristic type of things?
Like now that nobody can go, he's like, oh, my party's ruined.
And he's out there like fully clothed because it's, there's nothing else to do.
Yeah, ruins the party, you know? He's like, well, dude, I'm not going to put my trench coat on and go all the way down there if no one's even there.
Exactly. I'm going to show up like scuba suit, goggles and everything. Nobody's going to be seeing me anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, I bet you he will be at the ribbon cutting ceremony.
That would be incredible. It's like you picture, like you get the mayor, you get representatives, you get a group of fans, and there's like a camera crew, and in the distance is like him, and they have to blur his butt out because they can't put him on TV.
Did they cut the ribbon and then he's just there and just pulls open the trench coat? He's like, welcome back to Texas Beach, my friends.
It's like good old Richmond.
Yeah.
Love it.
I mean, only time will tell, I guess. But, who knows with these things of like when they're projected to be completed.
Yeah.
But I would imagine, if they're starting on it now, right? They're starting on it fall. I would hope next year rolls around and it's, back to normal, which would be great. And I will say it does seem like Richmond's been putting a lot of effort into these like public spaces. Yeah. And really, like there's also like Dock Street Park down before you get to Rockets Landing, down in the bottom. Like they built this beautiful observatory. And it does. It seems like they're really making Richmond what it should be, which is a city that's in the middle of the wilderness. You're on the river, you're in the wild. There's so much like great wildlife and greenery around. Why shouldn't that be part of the experience of being in the city?
Yeah.
And you think about the Capitol Trail and all that stuff. It's like, to me, I'm pretty pumped that it at least seems a little bit like there's been a shift in focus over the past few years to really make that a part of the city experience and make it a little more green spaces and make the parks feel a little bit more natural, which is cool. Yeah. Now, again, clean up the sidewalks though. You know what I'm saying? Like clean up the sidewalks. I shouldn't be walking with like, I don't know. It's a whole thing, but
you can't have it all.
Yeah,
sidewalks or new bridge at Texas Beach. Take your pick.
Exactly. But, it's all headed in a good direction though, which I'm pumped about.
Yeah. Sounds like 2025 into 2026, late 2026, we'll have some nice, shiny new, Richmond landmarks.
Yeah.
Which pretty stoked on.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think we're headed into a couple like really good years for the city.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Likewise.
This podcast was recorded at Vera House Studios in Richmond, Virginia, and produced by Perry Young and Mike Metzger.